In the United States, railroads are classified as Class I, II or III, as established by the Interstate Commerce Commission for the year ending June 30, 1911. Background: initially, the ICC defined a classification system by annual gross revenue taken in by each entity. Class I railroads had an annual operating revenue of at least $1 million, while Class III railroad incomes were under $100,000 per annum. All such corporations were subject to reporting requirements on a quarterly or annual schedule. If a railroad slipped below its class qualification threshold for a period, it was not necessarily demoted immediately. Since dissolution of the ICC in 1996, the Surface Transportation Board has become responsible for defining criteria for each railroad class. The bounds are typically redefined every several years to adjust for inflation and other factors. Classification history The initial $1 million criterion for a Class I railroad was used until January 1, 1956, when the figure was increased to $3 million. In 1956, the ICC counted 113 Class I line haul operating railroads and 309 Class II railroads. The Class III category was dropped in 1956 but reinstated in 1978. By 1963, the number of Class I railroads had dropped to 102. Cutoffs were increased to $5 million by 1965, to $10 million in 1976, and to $50 million in 1978, at which point only 41 railroads qualified as Class I. In a special move in 1979, all switching and terminal railroads were redesignated Class III, including those with Class I or Class II revenues. Class II and Class III designations are now rarely used outside the rail transport industry. The Association of American Railroads typically divides non-Euro Class I companies into three categories: regional railroads, operate at least 350 miles or make at least $40 million per year; local railroads, non-regional but engage in line haul service; switching and terminal railroads, mainly switch cars between other railroads or provide service from other lines to a common terminal. Classes: any large freight railroad company in the United States, Mexico, or Canada is classified based on operating revenue. Railroads are classified as Class I, Class II, or Class III. The exact revenues required to be in each class have varied over time and are now continuously adjusted for inflation. Class I Class I criteria. In the United States, the Surface Transportation Board defines a Class I railroad as having annual carrier operating revenues of $250 million or more after adjusting for inflation using the Railroad Freight Price Index developed by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. According to the Association of American Railroads, Class I railroads had a minimum carrier operating revenue of $346.8 million in 2006, $359 million in 2007, $401.4 million in 2008, $378.8 million in 2009, $398.7 million in 2010 and $433.2 million in 2011. In early 1991, two Class II railroads, Montana Rail Link and Wisconsin Central, asked the Interstate Commerce Commission to increase the minimum annual operating revenue criteria to avoid being redesignated as Class I, which would have resulted in increased administrative and legal costs. The Class II maximum criterion was increased in 1992 to $250 million annually, which resulted in the Florida East Coast Railway having its status changed to Class II. Rail carriers with less than $20 million in revenue were designated as Class III. In Canada, a Class I rail carrier is defined as a company that has earned gross revenues exceeding $250 million for each of the previous 2 years. Currently, 11 railroads in North America are designated as Class I. In the United States, Amtrak and 7 freight railroads are designated Class I based on 2011 measurements released in 2013. Canada, with no trackage in the United States via duct rail, trackage in both the United States and Canada, Amtrak, BNSF Railway, Canadian National Railway, Canadian Pacific Railway, CSX Transportation, Norfolk Southern Railway, United States, with no tracks in Canada or Mexico. Union Pacific Railroad, trackage in both United States and Mexico. Kansas City Southern Railway, Mexico, with no trackage in the United States. Ferromex, 26% owned by Union Pacific Railroad. Kansas City Southern Demar copyright Zico, wholly owned by Kansas City Southern Railway and operated as one. Class 2 a Class 2 railroad hauls freight and is mid-sized in terms of operating revenue. As of 2011, a railroad with revenues greater than $37.4 million but less than $433.2 million for at least 3 consecutive years is considered Class 2. Switching and terminal railroads are excluded from Class 2 status. Railroads considered by the Association of American Railroads as regional railroads are typically Class 2. Current Class 2 criteria. The last major change of the upper bound for a Class 2 railroad was in 1992, when the Florida East Coast Railway was changed from a Class I railroad to Class 2. A previous change in 1991, which prevented 2 railroads, Montana Rail Link and Wisconsin Centrale from becoming Class I, was made at the request of the 2 railroads, as they did not wish to take on the extra cost and paperwork associated with Class I status. Changes since then have been adjustments for inflation. Class 3 a Class 3 or short line railroad has an annual operating revenue of less than $20 million. Class 3 railroads are typically local short line railroads serving a small number of towns and industries or hauling cars for one or more larger railroads. Many Class 3 railroads were once branch lines of larger railroads or abandoned portions of main lines. Most Class 3 railroads are owned by railroad holding companies such as Genesee and Wyoming and Iowa Pacific Holdings. List of Class 3 railroads by state. As of April 2013, Class 3 railroads in operation are as follows: Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Mississippi, Nebraska, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, South Dakota, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, Washington. Interstate. Continuation of the class system today. The Surface Transportation Board continues to use designations of Class 2 and Class 3 since there are different labor regulations for the 2 classes. See also, List of U.S. Class I railroads, List of U.S. Class 2 railroads, Timeline of Class I railroads, 1910 Euro 1929, 1930 Euro 1976, 1977 Euro present, rail transport in the United States, rail transport in Canada, rail transport in Mexico. References. Notes, 49 CF Part 1201 Railroad Companies, Surface Transportation Board FAQs Euro Economic and Industry Information, STBX Part Number 647, AAR Euro Class I Railroad Statistics PDF, 49 CF Part 1201 Railroad Companies PDF, Stover, John F. The Routledge Historical Atlas of the American Railroads. Routledge, New York, New York. ISBN 0-415-92140-6. External links, List and family trees of North American railroads, uniform classification of accounts and related railway records. Retrieved April 24, 2005. Surface Transportation Board FAQs Euro Economic and Industry Information.